Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today on how has recruitment changed. Today, it's not just HR Solutions. We have our colleagues from read.co.uk and Teamtailor with us today. I'm just going to spend some time to introduce those to you. So I'm Greg Guilford. I'm the CEO of HR Solutions. And from read.co.uk, we have Michael J, who's a business development manager. And we have Teilo Morgan, who's from Teamtailor, and he's their sales team lead. We also have some usual suspects here, Rebecca Gormley, our marketing manager, Victoria Templeton, our HR knowledge manager, and Sue Watson, our head of client services. There's quite a few of you on the webinar today. We will have some slides showing you how to participate with the delegates and panelists, but all of you are mute, so if you are talking, we won't be able to hear you. So just a brief slide showing you how to ask those questions. So you should have something that looks very similar to this in front of you when you've logged in. In the panel, there's simply a pop-out that says questions, and if you want to ask myself or any of the other panelists any questions, then please put them in there, and we will have a section at the end of the webinar to field those questions for you. Those of you who've been on our webinars before, you know we try to make it as interactive as possible. So we do have a series of polls that we are asking you to participate in as we go through. And this slide will indicate that there's a poll coming up. So I just want to tell you a little bit about HR Solutions for those of you who've not been with us before. So HR Solutions is an award-winning HR, payroll and health and safety consultancy. We're experts in the field, having delivered outsourced services for more than 20 years. And we offer a full service for our clients. And what that means is we're helping take the stress out of managing a workforce with over 450 clients across multiple industries in the UK. We have a growing team of 30, all are experienced in helping small businesses all the way up to multinationals. And our retained clients are matched with a dedicated consultant who are supported by knowledgeable advisors and administrators as well. So just a brief agenda today, but there is actually quite a lot to get through. So we're going to look at why has recruitment changed, and then we'll pass over to Michael, who will talk about recruitment from 2021 and looking into 2022. And we'll have Teilo from Teamtailor talking about the candidate experience as well. And as I mentioned, we'll have a section at the end for a bit of a round robin with any questions you want to ask our panelists. So why has recruitment changed? I mean, that's kind of why we're running this webinar today. So obviously there's some key drivers that have had a big impact on recruitment over the last 12, 18 months. COVID-19 has definitely been a big catalyst, and sort of leading from that has been furlough. And obviously during that time we also had Brexit as well. They've all played a major part in how employees see their employers. And as it's also given them a lot of time to self-reflect and think about their careers, predominantly about work-life balance, and many employees now seeking flexibility in their roles. We've also seen an increase in side hustles of employees who might have had other activities they were doing in the evening, and some of that has led to them switching to the creation of small startup companies where their sort of hobbies have become quite lucrative for them and giving them a bit more flexibility in what they're doing. And with many people calling the Great Resignation being upon us, we are seeing more roles on the market being recruited for, but there is a general consensus that the recruitment market has changed through this period. And what we're going to talk about today is around candidate attraction and also candidate management in terms of how we can get you as many candidates as possible and obviously keep them through the recruitment process as well. And so we're very fortunate today to have two experts in these fields with us today. So we've got Michael J from read.co.uk and Teilo Morgan from Teamtailor. And both of them have a few slides to talk through their respective topics, and then we'll have the opportunity to ask them questions at the end as well. So now I'm going to pass it over to Michael, who's going to talk through recruitment in 2021 and a look into 2022.
Thank you, Greg, and good morning, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Just obviously a quick bit of background on myself. My name's Michael, obviously work for read.co.uk, Business Development Manager, and my market within read.co.uk, it's a real niche market, so I work with companies that offer a non-traditional and like a percentage fee recruitment solution. So you're looking at your fixed fee recruiters, flat fee resellers, perhaps ATS providers that purchase media on behalf of their clients, and normally these guys will purchase their media in bulk advertisement, and obviously our job is to then obviously provide them candidates for these companies, which ultimately will lead on to their end clients. Okay, cool. So without further ado, let's get started. Should be able to click through my side now, hopefully. Okay, cool. So a quick agenda for you guys, just to see what we're going to touch on. First of all, we're going to look at sort of how the market's changed into a seller's market. We're going to then look at, obviously, with it being a difficult market at the moment, we're going to look at some top tips. You've obviously heard Greg touch on the Great Resignation, so we'll do a few slides on that. Moving on into how to perhaps keep your employees, what are employees perhaps looking for at the moment. And then just to finish, we'll have a quick look at the new read.co.uk sort of brand campaign and see what we're doing to try and attract new talent at the moment. Just to begin, we're going to start off with a poll question.
Thank you. I'm going to...
Cool. Go on, Victoria, no problem.
Select the first poll for you. And I'm going to launch that. Now for you.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So everyone here, over the last 6 months, who has struggled to perhaps attract candidates? Who's found it extremely difficult to fill their vacancies at the moment?
So keep the poll open for a few moments. Okay, waiting for a few more.
Cool.
Okay, so let's close the poll. And I'm going to share the results with you all.
Excellent. Okay, so looks like the majority, well, the large majority, 83% have said yes, which is what I was expecting. As we know, it's very, very difficult at the moment, and that's going to lead me into my next slide. If we can jump back to the presentation, please, Victoria.
Yeah, I'll hide that poll.
Cool.
So you should be able to move on now.
Let's have a look. Okay. Trying to click through.
Yeah, let's see if I can. There we go.
Okay, cool. Right, let's go back one too many there. Right, we're going a bit too far. Not sure if that's me or someone else.
Let me just take you back. Just bear with me. I'll just
thank you.
Take you back to the first slide, and there we go. Do you want me to just move the slides on for you moving forward, Michael?
Yes, please. I'll let you know when to change. So, of course, where was I? So, as I was saying, we've just done the poll, and as we know, the majority of people have struggled there to fulfil their vacancies in the last 6 months. The main reason that being is obviously the shift in the labour market. So, what we've done is we've moved from a buyer's, which is employer's market, to a seller's, a candidate market. Now, the main reason for this is because of the sheer and the record-breaking amount of jobs obviously out there at the moment. As we all know, we've probably all been in situations looking back at early 2020 when we've got, hardly any jobs, but absolutely, tons of candidates. We're nowhere to put them. People were pausing their recruitment for large periods of time. I had a number of clients pausing their contracts, etc. Whereas now you can obviously see there just from the stat, just in July this year alone, we've had more job postings throughout the whole of 2020. So that's the reason for obviously the shortage in candidates. Obviously, some other reasons involved as well. Yes, obviously very difficult at the moment. Victoria, if you can go to the next slide for me, please. Okay, cool. So as a result of that, what we're facing here is significant skill shortage across multiple sectors. It's showing no necessarily signs of slowing down at the moment. That's despite, companies even offering, large signing on bonuses. I put one in there in the slide, which is one company offering, up to £10,000 signing on bonuses. But we've had numerous amounts on the site, even the likes of perhaps, Lidl's and Aldi, who are offering, £1,000 signing on bonuses. And even that, they can be struggling. But if so, what that also has is perhaps a knock-on effect. I've got one client at the moment in the care industry, which are looking for people to retrain, reskill, and come over. But unfortunately, they're only offering sort of minimum wage. And when you've got companies, perhaps even just supermarkets that are offering perhaps £12 to £13 an hour, and these large signing on bonuses, which is a lot of money for many people, it's having a knock-on effect, where the care industry can no longer hire anyone. So lots of various reasons why we're struggling at the moment. There's also, as we all know, Brexit, and obviously less visas for foreign nationals, which obviously provide a large chunk of the workforce. And also you've got all the reasons such as COVID, early retirement. How many people on here have perhaps got friends or family that were made redundant or were put on furlough and actually wanted to stay at home? They spent more time with their family, with their children. They can realise they can maybe survive off just one income in the house, or they actually want a job more part-time, closer to home. So a number of these reasons has obviously put us in a position where it's very difficult to fill our vacancies. And Victoria, if you can go to the next slide for me, please. Okay, cool. So with it being very difficult out there, what I've done is just put some quick top tips together to obviously try and attract staff. So firstly, just timely acknowledgement and feedback. So even if perhaps you're not going to do, the person that's applied for the job is not necessarily going to get the role, it's important that we let everybody know whether they have or not, and obviously that we've received their application, because ultimately at the moment a referral could be as important as a job advert, for example. Finding the optimum balance between automation and manual. So if it's maybe an automated email to let everyone know you've received the application, but then the next round let's put a personal phone call in, make things a bit more of a personal touch. I believe Teilo from Teamtailor is actually going to touch on this with the whole candidate experience as well, which looks really interesting. Also look at a streamlined hiring process. So look at the number of interview rounds required. Do we need four when you could perhaps do it in 2? And when other companies you're competing against, if they're making theirs a bit more simple, obviously without losing that quality of what you need to know from the candidate, can we bring the team leader into the first interviews to see if it's the right fit for both parties? Can we make the process of what they need to prepare not too long, because you may have candidates that are not necessarily looking for a job but maybe slightly open to opportunities. If they're being asked to perhaps prepare too much, they may not look to move at the moment. And then finally, just looking to be transparent and honest. So we always say you'll be so surprised how many people don't include a salary within their job description, and when you actually receive up to 70% more applications by including a salary. So really important. Maybe allow candidates to experience the culture for themselves, so they're into the final interview stage. Can you, if we are allowed to be in the office, can we invite them in the office to meet the team? If not, can we do that over a Zoom call, for example? Obviously, one, see if they're fit for a team, but also see if you like them as well. And then also being very clear about progression opportunities, what's available, and benefits as well. If you can, let's try and get these in the first 4 lines of your advert, as ultimately candidates will view this as a preview, and when they're looking at jobs, maybe save that job for later on their mobile phone and then apply it on their desktop when they're home. And if your needs catching their eye against others, they're more likely to save that for later. You can access an article which I'm going to send to Greg at the end, which will have even more information on attracting staff, which you may find useful. And Victoria, you can go to the next slide for me, please. Okay, cool. So you heard Greg touch on what's known as the Great Resignation. It's being touted around quite a lot at the moment. I believe Teilo is going to cover some of that as well. What I'm going to look at is, is it real? Is it already happening, perhaps? What it is. So it's a prospect of mass resignations, and it's a constant threat to in-house and external recruiters in the UK, with many businesses feeling the impacts of this. already. What we've done, over the last sort of few months, we've obviously done a number of surveys through read.co.uk with many of our clients, and sort of upon some of the findings on there, what I'm going to look at is whether obviously this is real, is it already happening, what sort of candidates looking for, and see if there's anything we can do to perhaps try and keep these candidates. And Victoria, you can go to the next slide for me. So what we already know is that less than 3 in 10 working adults in the UK are actually settled in the jobs right now, which is 29% telling us that in a recent survey they are not open to new job opportunities at all. And this is contrast to the 41% who say they're currently looking for a job, and a further 3 in 10 saying they're not currently looking but are open to opportunities. So the main sort of focus is those that are open to opportunities is the dangerous area, because at the moment where obviously companies are perhaps offering more, signing on bonuses, etc., this is where we've got to try and hold on to these 30%. A few more sort of stats for you. So a third of employed adults say they've stayed in their job longer than planned because of the pandemic. So how many, we've got friends and families that maybe were looking for a new job, maybe didn't like their manager, something simple like that, but ultimately they've not been made redundant, they've been looked after, they've been put on furlough, they've been brought back. They're maybe scared of another lockdown, so they've not moved, but ultimately if we feel that there's not going to be another lockdown, and we feel that the worst thing that's going to happen is perhaps we're going to maybe wear masks again, they may feel this is the time where they might want to move on again. This is what they was looking to do previously. They know at the moment companies are offering really good packages. Are we looking at maybe a little bit of a ticking time bomb, as you can see there? So a max exodus of talent could be on the horizon. How much of this is down to necessity, unemployment, furlough, or is just a fresh start? So obviously I've just touched on that in regards to people looking to move on after a difficult 18 months. And maybe a bit scared to do beforehand. Victoria, you can move to the next slide for me. Okay, cool. So looking at our first graph, so when did you first decide to look for a new job? We ran this survey. So as you can see, the most popular was in the last 3 months. And what that is suggesting there is perhaps maybe, candidates have looked at the summer as being a period when they can have a think about what they want to do, and then obviously after that summer period, then actually that's given them sort of the time to think about changing and thinking about looking for a job. And obviously another worrying thing for employers is that obviously now this summer's come to an end. Are we maybe in the midst of this Great Resignation now? Okay, Victoria, you can go to the next slide for me. Okay, cool. So starting to look at what candidates want and employees want, and this could be a case of not just on what they want from someone else, or what it could take to actually keep your employees. So as always, I've put there cash is still king. So as when we run a survey back in February, salary remains the most common reason for people to be looking for a job right now, with almost 4 in 10 saying this is the case for them. And over half indicated their employer raised their salary would make them stay with the business. And with so many vacancies out there right now not being filled, people know they have the power to demand more. So you know how many people are being approached on LinkedIn at the moment, with being offered £5,000 to £10,000 more, very tempting. But actually maybe they don't want to leave their business, so are they having a chat with their manager saying, I've been offered this elsewhere, can you match that? The power is with the employees at the moment. We've already seen that salaries rise by an average of 1% this year, and with lower paid roles paying up to £25,000, which is the biggest wage inflation at 4%. We've said there, there will be a cap on this. There's only so much companies can obviously pay before they get to a point where they won't be able to carry on spending. So I do expect this to stop at some point. Next slide, please, Victoria. Okay, cool. So there's little variation sort of between men and women when it comes to reasons for looking at a job, with salary being the biggest factor for both. However, sort of looking at age groups, that's where things become slightly different. As you can see there from the stats, the 18 to 44-year-olds are looking at other things rather than just salary. So they may look at, I've put flexibility in there, they may look at progression, career opportunities, some benefits. Whereas the 45 to 64-year-olds there would rather stay obviously in their current job, and maybe would look at other things, maybe moving on for maybe salary only. As you can see, over a fifth of those 18 to 34-year-olds are looking to move to a new industry as well. So they're looking for maybe, they don't mind maybe new retraining. They feel they can retrain, start in a new area, whereas the 45 to 64-year-olds is just 10%. Okay, and then outside there, almost 3 in 10 say they're looking for a job simply to see what is out there, while 1/5 say they don't enjoy their current job. So that's the area where we need to obviously look after our staff, because then they're not necessarily looking, but with some of the opportunities available in terms of what companies are offering, we need to be careful not to lose these staff. Victoria, can go to the next slide for me, please. Which I believe is another graph. Yep, of course. So this graph is just looking at what we asked them is why you're looking for a job right now. We've already touched on salary being the #1 reason, and then we looked at simply to see what else is out there. And then coming up after that is, I don't like my current job, and then closely followed by flexibility. Obviously, I could touch on a number of points here, but obviously you've got sort of a set amount of time. So what I'm going to look at, my focus on is looking at flexibility next. If you can go to the next slide for me, please, Victoria.
And I think we have a poll.
We do, yeah. We've got another poll question here.
So let me call up the poll for you.
Cool, excellent. So who here believes they currently have the perfect balance between remote and office working? Who thinks their employers got it just right in terms of working from home and traveling into the office? Obviously, where we can, in a world where we're not restricted to just working from home. So maybe over the last few months, but looks like we will be working from home for the next few weeks anyway.
So I'll keep that open a little bit longer.
Excellent, thank you.
A few more moments and then I'll close the poll. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share those results with you.
Cool. Excellent. So it's slightly more even than the poll earlier, with the majority still thinking perhaps yes, their employee has got it right, but still 35% saying no, which is quite similar to the results we've actually got from our survey, which if we can go to the next slide, I'll reveal.
Yeah. Okay, let's hide that and I'll take you on to the next slide.
Thank you. As you can see, the highest proportion, 37% of workers say their employers' working expectations are just right, whereas a similar amount believe they don't. A fifth say their employers not give enough flexibility, whereas on the other side, 17% say their employers giving them maybe too much flexibility. Now, look, what I've put at the bottom there, I think the key is the communication between obviously employers and employees, and to try and get things right. I can only talk from sort of personal experience as well at read.co.uk. What we did is our senior leader team, sat down with various co-members from each team, and we sort of discussed sort of various options about returning to the office. We begun with maybe 3 days in and 2 days at home, and we've actually now worked out what the right balance perhaps everyone wants, which is 1 day in the office and then like a flexi day, which we come in for different events if there's something going on in the office, for example, and then we're given the freedom to go on our client meetings throughout the week and then work from home the rest of the time. So I think the key is just the communication with your staff. And Victoria, you can go to the next slide for me. Okay, cool. So as I said previously, and there is lots of different sort of things I could touch on, but I focused on salary and flexibility for now. And just to sort of finish here, and this side's slightly different to how I had it, so it's just thrown me a little bit. But just to finish, just a bit of a conclusion. So we're coming out of a time of significant, unprecedented upheaval and uncertainty in the jobs market. A large number of people will resign from their jobs in the coming months for all manner of reasons, and there'll be nothing their employees can do about preventing this. However, that 30% I spoke about previously, this is the chance to make sure we can either keep them within our business, or if you are looking to attract talent, perhaps you can steer them away from their current jobs. Victoria, go to the next slide for me, please. Okay, cool. So I think the top bullet point was for the last one, but what we did is just to sort of finish on a positive. We actually did a survey recently of 251 hiring decision makers or senior managers within their businesses. They've all said with the current labour shortages in their sector, 82% said they felt optimistic about their labour shortages would improve in 2022. So just wanted to finish on a positive note, which leads us into what read.co.uk will be doing to try and attract candidates to our website. And we've got an excellent brand campaign at the moment, which is on all the buses, sort of tube stations and bus stops around London and throughout the north as well. We've had some real positives. As you can see, 73% are more likely to use us based on their current creative. And we'll be launching this again throughout 2022, starting in January. I think I've got some examples on the next slide, Victoria, if you can move on for me. Okay, cool. We haven't, but there's one there at the bottom of the buses. There was a few more, but perhaps
it's on the next slide, Michael.
Next slide. Okay, cool. But whilst we've got this slide up, what I will say is feel free to contact me. You've got all my details there. Like I said, I can only touch briefly on some of the stuff today, but we've got 2 excellent white papers filled with loads of information, which I'm going to obviously have at hand or send to Greg. Please contact me. If you're a direct company, I can potentially put you in touch with our direct team who can maybe offer a free trial. If you're on the Retcon side of things, reach out to myself and I may be able to offer you a free trial as well. Victoria, the final slide, please.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is just an example of what we've got going on at the moment, which we've had on since sort of late summer this year, and we're going to begin that again sort of in January. It's just to try and get our brand awareness out there again and bring more unique candidates to the site. And so yeah, thanks again. Thanks for having us, Greg, and Business HR, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. And I look forward to your questions at the end.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And I didn't apologise at the beginning, getting you to do a webinar on a Thursday when we know you love Mondays. But thank you for joining us anyway. We will do the questions all at the end, so please stay with us and we'll circle back. In the meantime, we're now going to pass you over to Teilo from Teamtailor, who's going to talk about candidate experience.
Hey, everybody. So my name is Teilo. I obviously work for Teamtailor. I'll just do a little bit of a sort of intro on me before I sort of tell you about what we're going to be talking about. But I worked in agency recruitment for about 5 or 6 years before moving sort of in-house with Teamtailor and into sales. So yeah, so worked a lot on sort of the freelance market. So worked with lots of creative agencies within London, just helping them, recruit creative services, project managers, account managers, that sort of thing. So, had a good 4 or 5 years looking at how the market changed and is changing. So now I'm working at Teamtailor. So Teamtailor essentially is an applicant tracking system. I think we're slightly different because what we do is we push a lot more on this sort of employer branding sense. So, what we want to do is not just have a system that helps you with automation and managing candidates in a process, but also, really selling yourself to a career site, for example, to the candidates basically, and help attract them through. So what I'm going to do on my section, thanks Michael for yours, is essentially just look at tech in recruitment and see how tech has changed in recruitment and essentially how it's helping with recruitment and how it can help with developing candidates, attracting candidates, the candidate journey. We're going to talk a bit about D&I and how tech can help with diversifying your workforce and so on. So I'm going to cover it anyway, and we'll get cracking. So what I wanted to do first of all is just give, I guess, a top summary. I know we've done this sort of a little bit already, but just a summary of what we think has happened and what I think has happened in the last sort of couple of years. So obviously, things were pretty normal, I'd say, before the pandemic struck. So when it sort of hit the news and everything went into lockdown, COVID struck, companies hit emergency mode and instant redundancies, people furlough, everything was sort of pausing. And go into crisis mode essentially. So lots of redundancies, which meant lots of candidates on the market, not many jobs. It was a bit of a strange time, I'd say, for recruitment. And then shortly after that, the announcement of Brexit, which I think meant that a lot of people in the UK that work in the UK are actually, you know, international. You know, they're from Europe. They come over and really help with our industry. And I think with Brexit, you know, the borders were closed, and we had a crisis filling jobs over here in the UK. I think after a little while, things just, you know, I guess normalised, and companies did start to hire slowly. I'd say, you know, very slowly, you know, very tentative. Everyone was unsure on, you know, what the economic state was like. So what we had is a bit of a crisis, because there was lots of candidates on the market, you know, because lots of people have been made redundant, people have moved jobs, etc., but not so jobs. So candidate heavy market, not many jobs. And I think a lot of companies, a lot of, you know, heads of recruitment for agencies and also recruitment agencies, you know, struggled with the amount of candidates they were getting through. And it's really hard to, you know, upkeep and give a candidate the best experience when, you know, you don't have the tools to do it. So hopefully, you know, that's something I'm going to, you know, bring to the table, you know, on this slideshow. So yeah, candidate heavy market, few jobs. Then obviously we had the Great Resignation. I think people realised that, you know, they could work remote. They don't necessarily have to work in London. You know, you could work, you know, outside of London, and you can, you know, jump on a Zoom. You don't need to commute. So I think people realise, you know what, actually, I think this flexible working is really appealing. So a lot of candidates, you know, they started looking for jobs with really good perks, really good flexibility, and so on. So I think that the Great Resignation was a big part of that. And what happened in that period of time is a lot of candidates resigned, a lot of candidates got new jobs, I think quite quickly, within like a few months or so. And you know, as it's coming up to Christmas now, I think there is a massive candidate shortage, because a lot of people have resigned from where they are, got a new job somewhere else. You know, the market's popping back, so we've got lots of jobs with not many candidates. So you've got that, you know, conundrum now where you've got no candidates on the market, and it's really hard to attract those candidates, because candidates now are looking for, you know, really great perks, etc. So, you know, how do you show yourself off to those candidates and you know, really employ a brand? So I guess, you know, that's just a little look at where I think it started, where I think it is now, and sort of where it's going. So hopefully a few things that you know, the tech world does and we do at Teamtailor can help with you know, the recruitment process. So what we've got next is, so Victoria, I think I need, oh, here we go. I'm on it, don't worry.
Let me
I'm on.
call up the poll.
Great, lovely. So yeah, so I'm going to mix a few polls in here, a bit like Michael. So what I want to do is ask a question, first of all. So is employer branding a big part of your recruitment strategy? Yes, no, or I don't know. So it'd be good to know.
Okay.
A few I don't knows on there, which is quite interesting. Yeah.
I'll keep it open for a little bit longer.
Perfect. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll go into the into a slide next, which is sort of associated with this question, and we can talk about that a little bit more with your answers. Yeah.
So let's close the polls. I'm going to share the results on the screen.
Lovely. Cool. Lovely. So I guess on there, which is quite interesting, is, you know, majority yes. You know, we also, and I believe is important, obviously. You know, your employer brand is very important, especially at the moment. You know, with not many candidates and lots of jobs, you really need to sell to the top tier candidates and any candidates really. And then obviously there's a few I don't know on there. Which is interesting, because, you know, I think it is a topic which people don't really think about. Some people think, you know, I've got all these jobs to hire across, I just need something that's going to really help me hire, but you don't think about how you're actually going to attract the candidates in the place. So yeah, thanks for answering that. So next on my slide is,
there you go.
Here we go, thank you. So candidate experience and employer branding. So, you know, I think, as I mentioned just before, I think, you know, you can't just expect a candidate to, you know, apply for a job and know who you are. So I think a really, really important factor, and I guess this is going to answer two questions, is how do you show off your employer brand to candidates, but also how do you make the candidate journey a really pleasurable experience? Because even if that candidate doesn't get the job, they're still going to say to a colleague, a friend, I had a really good process interviewing with that company, and it just increases your chance to, things like retention, and that candidate might turn around in a year's time and say, I'm going to apply again. So from a candidate experience point of view, a lot of tech companies, a lot of tech brands are helping companies do it. So here at Teamtailor, obviously, you can create a career site. So you log into the platform and you've got a sort of content editor, and within that career site, what you can do is showcase your company culture through your career site. So on there, you can put things, perks, benefits, videos about your team culture. You can have different location pages, so you can actually see, where you could work and where it's spread. And basically, the career sites it's just a really good way to showcase what you're all about, really. And I think it's really important, when you apply for a job through, I don't know, LinkedIn, for example, you're just putting your details into a spreadsheet and sending them through to a company that you don't really know much about. So what career sites do is they just really give good, a good impression of what you're all about and your values to that candidate, which is really useful. And these days, a lot of career sites, they actually have built SEO as well. So they use Google Analytics to actually attract candidates through analytics, essentially. So that when a candidate searches a job, because you have inbuilt SEO, candidates are essentially going to see your jobs first, and it will increase your candidate inflow. It also reduces cost to hire by 35%, because candidates are naturally, there's more candidates applying for a job, they know more about you, which means they probably interview a little bit better. And you've got a career site, essentially. You don't necessarily have to work with lots of different agencies or job boards, for example, to promote your brand. You've already got your own career site there, essentially. So that's the employer brand element and the careers site, I think it's really important to do. I guess the last thing I wanted to mention on there quickly before moving on was candidate experience. So with the career site, and on here you can actually see the images on the bottom left. You've got it's almost like your own employee dashboard, candidate dashboard. So with Teamtailor, what you can do is you can actually log into the careers site, and you've got your own dashboard where you can look at other jobs, you can update your details, etc. And I think having this experience is just quite a nice touch. You're not just sending your CV through to someone or an email inbox. You've got this little journey, this place that you can sit within, and it just makes you feel like you're working with the company already, essentially. So I think making that and having stuff like that in your recruitment process is just really does make the difference, which is cool. So I guess that's just a little bit on that. I'm gonna dive over. I've probably talked about that a little bit too long, but here is the analytics. So with it's really important, I think, to with lots of candidates in the market, or too few candidates, to look at your data and understand, I think have a think about recruitment before, traditional recruitment versus predictive hiring. And I think, traditional recruitment, I'm, an advocate for. I worked agency side for quite a few years, and there's nothing better than meeting someone face to face, picking up the phone, having a call, learning about them. But I think now, because there's, it's a weird, turbulent time, you need to use data and analytics to essentially look at your hiring trends, what works, what doesn't, what job board works, what job board doesn't, and look at your analytics of page views and things like that, just to be a bit more accurate in terms of what you're doing, because it saves you time and money. So I guess that's how analytics has sort of helped recruitment. You work a certain role and you can actually look at what performs better, what performs worse, and then for your future hiring you can adopt those methodologies that you've used before. And I'd say we're definitely in an age of data recruitment as well. Again, like I said, because there's lots of candidates on the market, or too few candidates on the market, and things are changing. So you need that data really to work out how you're going to do it. And I think, you know, using software and tech and having a good tech stack that has maybe a reporting or analytics section really helps you, to be honest. You know, it unlocks the potential to learn from and improve your process. And I think also this helps hiring managers. So hiring managers, obviously, they can actually learn from what they've done previously before, and, you know, look at the analytics internally. So you can even look at your own your employee analytics. You know, how many hires are people making? Who's hiring the best candidate with, I don't know, grading systems, you know, 1 to 5 stars, for example, that Teamtailor does. You know, things like that. So yeah, analytics, I think, is, you know, what you need to do is have a good, you know, ATS or tech company and look at your analytics, because predictive hiring is hugely important at the moment, and, you know, we can't just, you know, cowboy it like we have done in the past. So that's analytics. I'm going to dive on to the next slide now, which is automation. So, you know, I know I've sort of touched on this a little bit before, but automation, I think, is hugely important. You know, like I said, busy candidate market, or one with barely any candidates, you know, lots of jobs, no jobs. It's really important to give the candidate the best experience, but also make sure you're doing your job efficiently, because it's, you know, hard to do. So, you know, a couple of examples that, you know, Teamtailor has is at the bottom there, where you've actually got triggers. So when a candidate applies for a job, you can open up that job within Teamtailor, and it's like a candidate flow. So you've got the inbox, reviewing, interview, technical interview, your different stages. And what we've got is triggers. So essentially what this does is automations on each stage. So let's say I pulled a candidate through from inbox into reviewing. A trigger would automate, I don't know, like a message, you know, congratulations, you're through to the next round. Things like that just make your job easier. So you're not manually sending out a reply and you know, just wasting time essentially. And I know this seems like maybe it takes away that human element, but, you know, what you can do is you can set some really great message templates up within systems, within tech platforms and stuff, so you can just whiz them straight out. And essentially this just helps with, you know, making sure that candidates are getting the best experience, because, you know, it's really hard to apply to every single candidate, especially if you've got a really popular role that gets 500+ candidates in. These triggers will really help with that automation. You know, so does automation kill the human element? I don't think it does. I think it just enables you to essentially do your job better, to be honest with you. I think there's been huge developments in AI as well. So, you know, AI is, you know, using, you know, I guess smart tech to look for candidates. So, you know, a lot of systems these days, you know, they will use, you know, some smart intelligence, I don't understand it fully, to actually identify key candidates within your system that match with roles that you posted, which, you know, saves a huge amount of time sourcing candidates within the system, or, you know, even on LinkedIn, for example, which is great. So, and, you know, again, how does this help your hiring managers? I think automations within a system really just help with, you know, getting the job done nice and quickly in the system. So, for example, you know, at the top here, we've actually got it's a smart schedule calendar system. I don't know if you guys have worked with Calendly before, but it's similar. And what you can do is you can send a grid reference out to a candidate, and they will just book in a slot for you. And if a hiring manager's booking an interview in for several different people within the business, it will cross-reference their whole diary, and you can just book it in. And, you know, it just means you're not sending ping-pong emails back and forth, which, you know, I spent 5 years doing when I worked agency side. So it's really helpful. And I guess the last thing to mention on here is the Nps scoring. So with your, you know, giving the candidate the best experience, certain tech companies now will have like an Nps scoring internally. So what it does is it gives the candidates the opportunity to actually score you on how your interview's going, you know, how the hiring process has gone, stage by stage, or, you know, within the whole job. And what it does is it gives hiring managers the opportunity to really chop and change their recruitment and make sure they're giving candidates the best experience, essentially. So that's just a bit on automation. I'm going to jump through to my next point now, if you mind, Victoria. Oh, we've got a poll.
Yeah, we've got a poll. So let me
Lovely.
launch this poll for you.
Perfect, thank you. So with this poll, again, it's going to be followed by a slide, which we can talk into it a little bit. But in your opinion, does your company do enough with diversity and inclusion? Please select one of the following. So yes, no, I don't. So again, I think it's a hot topic, isn't it? You know, diversity inclusion, it should have always been a hot topic. And I think, you know, luckily it's definitely picking up. But a lot of companies just don't know, like, you know, they haven't got the money to invest it. They haven't got the time to invest it. So I think this is quite an interesting question.
Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it open for a few more moments.
Lovely.
Okay, right, and I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So here we
Lovely. Go. Perfect, cool. So I'm glad to say that most of the people say yes. So obviously 53%, the majority, I'd say, well, nearly the majority, just over half, do enough with diversity and inclusion. Quite a big percentage obviously say no, which is a shock, I think. And then obviously 11%, I don't know, which again is, you know, a bit of a shock. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll dive into the next slide and we can talk about that a little bit. Which will be cool. Thank you. Thanks for doing that, everybody. So diversity and inclusion. So, you know, I think, you know, the past year or so, I think, you know, definitely after lockdown, I think, you know, with everything that went on, you know, over lockdown and you know, all of the stuff in the news and stuff to do with diversity and inclusion and making everything fair has really made it a hot topic in recruitment at the moment. But it's very, very hard to measure and do. And I think it's crucial that you actually have a piece of tech or some sort of tech capability in order to look at diversity and inclusion within a workspace, because you can't just assume that you're doing the right thing. It's impossible. So what you need to do, I think, is harness your tech providers and get systems in there that will help you do it. So for example, Teamtailor has anonymized hiring, which I think a lot of ATSs do, and a lot of companies are actually just adopting anyway, because you can do it not using tech. You can just sort of work it out, you know, cross out names and stuff on CVs. But the way anonymous mode works through Teamtailor is essentially when you pull a candidate through to your inbox, you can switch anonymous mode on, and what you get is a color and an animal, and then when you click on that candidate card, it just basically blurs out everything. So he, she, background, where they're from, etc. And it just anonymizes everything. What it does is it gets rid of that recruiter bias. So some people use it, some of our clients will use it on a couple of stages initially, and then they get pulled through to stage 3, and then, you know, their name and everything will appear once that sorting process has been done. So that's really useful. I think reporting has come on massively in the last sort of few months or so, and maybe year. So what's really important is that you do reporting on where your candidates are coming from, you know, what their backgrounds are, and you know, on your application process, you can actually have a D&I survey that candidates can fill out, say where they're from. And at the end of that recruitment process, you can actually look at the stats. You know, where are your candidates coming from? What's their background? And you can be very proactive and hands-on with your diversity and inclusion. And with that as well, I think, yeah, it's just really important. And I think you need that reporting in there, because you can look at things like, you know, what job boards bring in certain demographics, for example. So, you know, you're posting a lot on LinkedIn, you're posting a lot on wherever, and you're just getting a particular type of person. What you can actually do is you can look at where you post your jobs and just increase that D&I essentially. So this helps to eradicate unconscious bias, obviously. You know, I think clever companies like Applied actually is an ATS that I really admire, and they do a lot of intelligent hiring strategies through D&I and really clever hiring techniques, which is really cool. I had an example in here actually of a really cool company that uses tech in order to sort of tech-ish in order to diversify everything. So Maersk, obviously, it's a big shipping container oil company, and what they did is they actually hired an online game studio to come in and build a game for the hiring managers. which actually teaches them how to not be biased when recruiting. So I just think that's a really good example of how, you know, tech's been used to teach, you know, hiring managers of, you know, how they need to recruit. So yeah, so D&I think it's really important. I think, you know, tech has really helped with diversifying the workforce, and I think, you know, it's probably the hottest topic at the moment, and I think it's developing massively. So, you know, keep your eyes open for features and new stuff that pops into the market. So that's D&I. I think if you wouldn't mind jumping on. I know we've not got loads of time, so I might have to speed up a little bit. So what tech is really good for as well is hiring remotely and internationally. So Teamtailor, for example, you know, I mentioned the career sites previously. What you can do is you can have, you know, not just one career site, but you can have adjacent career sites that match your offices. You know, if you work for, you know, a group company and you've got an office in France, one in Spain, one in Africa, you can have adjacent career sites that are language specific and translocated to that position. So, you know, it does help you hire not just into the, you know, the London office or whatever. They can go onto your career site, look at your recruitment family tree and look at your other offices and where they're at. You know, everything's remote now, so you can have anyone that works for you from anywhere really, you know, as long as they've got Zoom and can use a laptop. So that's a really good way of attracting candidates internationally. I think a lot of tech partners are helpful as well. So a lot of modern tech companies will have an open API, which essentially is, you know, a part of the system where they can plug in different tech partners. So Teamtailor, for example, has that open API, and we partner up with HiBob, other HR systems, you know, assessments, other video software. You know, if you know they need to do some more technical video interviews, and what they do is they just plug it in, and this really helps with hiring remotely as well, because it means that you can do a quick video interview. It means that, you know, if you're working with a remote workforce, you integrate with a HR system that can do development plans and your employee growth. So I think the tech partners, you know, really help in that regard, and the fact that they can plug in together really helps as well. I think also our integrations with job boards. So, you know, we do integrate with Michael and Reed, and it means that you can multi-post from Teamtailor onto those different job boards. So, you know, you might have some job boards that are more appealing to the French market, and you really need some, you know, French employees, for example. You can link those up and post them out into the French market. So, you know, really helpful to have that global reach in that sense. I think, you know, a look at reporting as well. So when you look at your reports, you can essentially map out, you know, again, a bit like D&I reporting, where your candidates are coming from, and you look at, you know, how you're hiring remotely and how that's going. So I think that's really useful. And then I guess external recruiter access is really helpful as well. You know, like I said, I worked in recruitment for years before, and I think, you know, the value that a pro in their space, an external recruiter, brings is better than any recruitment that you can get sometimes. So, you know, some systems like Teamtailor, you can actually plug in your PSL of recruiters. It's actually how I first heard about Teamtailor. And what you can do is you can send them that job, and they can work on that job for you. So, you know, you might have some specialist recruiters that recruit internationally and globally, and, you know, a system can't reach those people. So what you can do is you can plug them into the system, they can use the system, send you candidates, and it sort of marries them together rather than, like, you know, cutting them out of the process. So yeah, I think it's really useful, you know, and I think tech really helps with hiring remotely and internationally. So yeah, that's it for that slide. If you wouldn't mind moving on, Victoria. So what I wanted to do is just give a quick conclusion on this. So I think it's obvious that recruitment is changing. I think it's obvious that we're going through a bit of a turbulent time. It's up and down. There's lots of candidates. There's no candidates. There's a great resignation. And I think whatever stage we're in, I think it's really important to have a really good tech stack, a really good tech platform, you know, not necessarily just an ATS, but a good HR system, you know, a good system that, I don't know, helps, yeah, just everything really. Helps with recruitment, helps with developing people, and all sorts. So I think it's really important now to start looking into tech and help. And, you know, it's not a, you know, an age anymore where everything can just be written down, and you can ring someone and get it down and over the line. You need the tech to help, especially as, you know, things get busier and the population grows. So yeah, I think it's very important. But that's it really. That's the end. You know, if there's anything on there that you thought could be useful and really helpful, feel free to get in touch. Like I said, we're a, you know, an ATS. We do a lot on employer branding, so I think we do bring that element of, you know, that extra element that really helps get the candidates in. So yeah, we've got a few offers on there, which I'm sure you can see. So yeah, we're doing sort of what we're doing, 3 additional months if anyone signs up from the webinar. We're also doing, you know, if you want me to do your custom careers site, just reach out and I can do you a quick one and make it look nice, and we can work together on it free of charge, just for you to have a little look and a chat, and we can go from there. And then also, if you sign up sort of within the first quarter, you'll get 15% off. So, you know, I know this isn't really the point of the webinar. It's been nice to talk to you about recruitment and how it's changed, but those offers are there, so feel free to reach out. That's me, I think. Back to
Thank you. Yeah,
right.
so thank you, Teilo, and that's brought us to our question and answers. And thank you, Michael. Really all fascinating stuff then, a lot to take away going into 2022. I'm conscious of time for everybody. We've got a couple of minutes left. We have had some questions. I thought if I just put one question to you, it's to Michael, and then perhaps I'll respond individually to on the other questions. And the question I'd like to ask is, when writing a job advert, what perks and benefits can make you stand out from competitors? I think that's a really good question, given the current situation we're in.
Yeah, not a problem. No worries at all. So I would say things like, you know, if there's any sort of company prizes, you know, end of the month prizes, incentives, team nights out, some team building days out, anything like that's a little bit different that maybe your normal employer wouldn't be offering. I'd say, you know, things all about the flexibility as well. So sort of your late start, maybe early finish on a Friday is another perk and a benefit I'd look at. Some subscription-based stuff, gym packages. I know we're linked with like a Love Learning, which is Love Benefits or something like that, which offers sort of cinema tickets, things like that. So anything that's a little bit different that maybe your competitors not doing.
Okay, that's interesting, because I know with the pandemic, it's got a lot of people thinking, hasn't it, in terms of, I guess, a lot of reflection for everybody, and what perhaps we see was the more financial benefits be the attractive element, but actually we're seeing people wanting perhaps more the non-financial benefits because they appreciate more time off with family, I suspect, and more flexibility in the hours of work to give them that work-life balance. So that's really interesting to hear. So they're good tips. Thank you. We are running out of time, so if it's okay, I'll forward the questions on and we can get back to people on those other remaining questions. But what I would like to do before we bring it to a close is just run a final poll. And this is really like for all you regulars to our webinars, we like to just ask if you'd like to find out from us, whether that's on HR solutions and our HR and payroll services, our health and safety services that we offer, our training, but also if you'd like Reed or Teamtailor to get in touch with you, then please do let us know. So I'm just going to launch the final poll. See if this works. My technology is a little bit slow this morning. Let's see if that's come up there. Yes. So if you'd like to hear back from any of us on the panel today, then please do let us know, and we will follow up with you after today's webinar. So I'll keep that running for a little bit.
Just while that's running, I would just like to say you will all get a copy of the slides from today's webinar, and we will send you a link to a recording as well. We are recording it for you all. And also just to say, internally, HR Solutions, we have a fixed fee recruitment service, and we use both Reed for our advertising and work closely with Michael to help us with that, and also with Teilo in the Teamtailor product. We find it absolutely invaluable with our own products and with our own internal recruitment as well. they are brilliant systems at saving you so much time and doing it all in accordance with GDPR. So yeah, absolutely recommend it.
Thank you. So I'm going to close that poll. Thank you. And I'm going to just carry on with bringing the webinar to a close. So as always, we like to just share what we've got coming up for you. So you'll see that we've got a link to our training courses. So we are offering CPD courses for people on HR people management. We operate health and safety courses as well. So if there's anything that you're interested in, then please have a look on the link, see what we've got on offer and our dates for next year, because we've got a lot that we've got planned for. And also we now run ILM accredited courses. And then also the webinars. So we have got our 2022 schedule live. So we've got some really interesting webinar topics going into next year, both HR and health and safety, and that includes holding welfare meetings, employee retention, and how to keep hold of your employees, some health and safety, mental health. So there's some really good topics there. So please do check out the link as well to see about joining us for our regular webinars. And then, of course, if you would like to stay in the loop with our HR and health and safety news, then please feel free to do so. And there's a link here. So all these links will be on the slides when they come out to you as well. And then just as a reminder, Michael kindly highlighted a couple of key white papers, so the candidate experience and the Great Resignation. If you do want a copy of those, then please do get in contact with Michael or ourselves. And then from Teamtailor, as Teilo explained, there's a webinar exclusive to all of you that have attended today, webinar for 3 months for free. You can trial it as well, there's a link there. And also the 50% off in the first quarter of 2022. So there's some really helpful offers there from Michael and Teilo. And so in terms of further information, this is how you can get in contact with us. You've got all our information there. So HR Solutions, our general line, our email, and obviously our webpage, and the same for Reed and Teamtailor, how you can get in contact with them. So as always, we do like to receive your feedback on the back of our webinars, because it helps us to build our schedule moving forward and to see where we can improve and just to help us with our webinar program. So please, if you're able to just take the time at the end of this webinar, we'd be really grateful to get your feedback. And finally, this brings me to a close to thank many of you. So thank you, Michael, Teilo and Greg for facilitating and hosting today's really interesting webinar. It's really sort of thought-provoking and really useful insights into the current challenges with recruitment and how we can overcome those challenges. So it's all really good stuff. Thank you to everybody that's taken time out. I know it's a busy time of year for everybody, so as always we really appreciate you joining our webinars and hope you found it of interest. And thank you for everybody, Rebecca and Sue in the background with helping with questions and technical challenges. So thank you everybody, and take care, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar.
Thanks.